Hey everybody, welcome to another Cricut craft tutorial. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I put out new videos all the time. Make sure you hit that bell icon. That will let you know when I post a new video. On today's video, we are going to learn how to make a birth stat elephant. This elephant I got from Amazon. I will link that below for anyone who is looking to purchase him. He's about $7.99. In order to do this craft, you will need your elephant, a home iron, heat press or your easy press, as well as some HTV in colors of your choice, a pair of scissors, and some parchment paper. Let's go ahead and get started. We're ready to start designing our elephant ears. So the first thing that I like to do is make sure that I always have a template so that I sort of know how much space I'm working with. So all I did was measured my elephant ear, and I figured out that I probably have about 2 inches wide and about 2.7 inches tall to work with. So, sorry, I hit the wrong button. We're going to go to shape, and we're going to open a square. And all we're going to do is unlock our square. And that's right here down in the lower left-hand corner. And up here at the top where it says size, I'm just going to change it to 2 wide and then 2.7 high. So that's about the space we have to work with. You can see it's not a huge space. I do have this zoomed in a bit, so it's going to look pretty big on your screen. I do that just so I can see better. So the next thing that we need to do is know that our birth stats, and we know that our the baby that we're doing this for is a friend's baby. So I'm really excited to give her this. Their whole nursery is jungle themed, so it's really, really cute. I always like to put the date of birth at the top because I feel like that one is kind of a really important date. So all we're going to do is open a text box, and I like to start with just the first thing. So I know that he was born on 9/19/18. Now obviously that is giant and way too big, so we're going to go ahead and resize it down a little bit, and then we'll play with the font after we've resized it down. I like to use kind of a blocky font for these. Times New Roman is really, really good. It's easy to read in these small spaces, and it looks really nice and neat. So it's easy to weed too. So I just am going to use that one. We know that he was 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and he is 20 inches long. So for those, we're going to fill those in here, but I'm also going to put the time he was born. And I like to put the time at the bottom. It just looks a little bit neater that way. So all we're going to do is just enter the time, 5:17 p.m. And I'll leave this, all the writing is going to be in Times New Roman. I just prefer it. Like I said, it's all personal preference, whatever style you're going for. If it's a girl, you might want to use something a little girlier. I don't recommend for a size like this, like a really swirly font, because it's going to be very hard to weed. So now that we have these two stats in, we have a lot of space to work with for both his length and his weight. There's a couple cute ways you can do this. You can turn them. You can kind of play around with it. This is just the way that I have done them in the past, and I like to do them. So I'm just going to type in 7 pounds, and you can either write out pounds or you can just do LBS. It just depends on the look you want to go for, and you don't have to put a space. You can see you can do all sorts of things to mess with it, but I'm actually just going to put a 7 for now, throw that up there for now, and then I'm going to do pounds, and I may change some stuff as we play, but I like to actually make it so that it sort of squishes everything together. So I like to turn my words sometimes and just play with it and see kind of what the look I like. And I think pounds might be too long for this, for how I want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to text. I'm just going to change it to LBS, which is of course the abbreviation for pounds, and make sure you do include a period. I'm going to change my letter spacing just a little bit on this one, which you can do up here at the top, right here where it says letter space. You can use this on any font you want. So we're going to go ahead and do 7 pounds, and we're just going to shrink it down a bit, and I might make it a little bit bigger, and we can do that. I'm just going to take a look at it. And now that I have the 2 at the top, so I have the date and the time, I can move the square template out if I need to, just so I can kind of select things and move them around a little bit more if I want. So what I like to do is I'll select both of these items because I know I want them to be the same size, and I will just expand them a bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the 10 ounces. So I'm going to do the number 10. And I'm going to do the ounces sideways too, just because I think that looks cute. And I think it'll look really cute once we do both of these together. But we want to make sure that they're pretty even in size. So you see how far apart the 1 and the 0 are? I'm going to letter space those down a little bit, just so that they're a lot closer so that the 10 doesn't take up quite as much space. And there we go. Now we're going to do the ounces, which is OZ. Again, period. And Turner. I don't think I turned it quite enough. In case you guys are missing it, to turn any of your projects, this little arrow, this kind of swirls, you just hold him and you can just kind of adjust your turn depending on how you want it to fit. Now with this one, I can see that it's sticking out a little bit on the edge from my template. So I'm going to move my template back over and see how close that actually is. It's not too bad. And we can move the 7 over a hair if we need to. So we're okay with that. That's no big deal. So there is our 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And the only other thing that we need to put in here now is how long he was. So we know that he was 20 inches long. And we can put that right here in this hole. This one's going to be a little bit different than most of the ones that I do, because most of them have like 20.5 or 18.5. So this guy just being 20 inches, he's not going to take up a ton of space when I put it in. So all I'm going to do is put the 20 here, and then I'm going to do inches, and I'm actually going to spell out inches on this one just so it takes up the right amount of space. And again, size it down. And you can see we've got some space to fill. I like to make sure that these are really well filled in so that they don't look like a big open spot. So their parents are very big animal lovers, so we could do paw prints, but I think I'm just going to stick with some hearts on this one. And you can just use your shapes for that. And all I'm going to do is just do a couple little hearts. So I'm just going to insert, whoops, I didn't want to insert twice. I'm only going to insert one heart, and I'm going to change its color so that I can see it better against the gray. I'm just going to make it black. This will not be black. I'm going to do this in white. And then I'm just going to size one heart down and just see how big I need it to be. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that a couple of times. And don't worry, they're going to be kind of everywhere right now. And all we're going to do is place them within our space. And we may need to recenter some things if it doesn't look quite right with the hearts. And we can always resize the hearts if we wanted to do a full line of hearts. It just depends on the look that you want to do. And sometimes with these, like if I can't get them quite right, I'll grab the square, and what I do is I just line it up with the 20, or at least real close to the bottom of the 20, and that'll help you visualize the edge and a straight edge, because you can see the hearts are a little hard to get completely straight because of their size, and that grid kind of gets in the way. So all I'm going to do is just make sure that my hearts are almost touching, and I can see that that heart's a little high. I'm just going to slide them down. This is all just a matter of kind of squeezing stuff in, and you can see they're completely not centered. So we'll move that around, and I don't mind that the hearts are touching. I think I'm actually going to make them touch. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So we're going to need to move the 20 over a little bit because it is not fully centered. So rather than having to move the entire thing, which seems like a pain, I'm going to show you guys over here in the layers panel. All you need to do is go find your 20, and then you just have to find all of your hearts. And what you can do is select them by holding Control on your keyboard and selecting the entire design. You'll just select each piece. And then all you're going to do is just move your whole design around until it looks fairly centered. And I think that looks pretty gosh darn centered. So then all I'm going to do is just double check my stats. So I know that he was born at 5:17 p.m. on 9/19/18. He's 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and 20 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the square because I don't need it anymore. And because my hearts are touching, I do want to make sure I weld my hearts. But I'm just going to go ahead and weld the entire design. I typically say don't do that. But before I move along, I probably will go ahead and weld. But what I'm going to do first is save it, because I don't want to save it after I weld it. I want to save it before I weld it, and I'm actually going to make sure it's not public. We're going to go ahead and save this as elephant stats. and go ahead and click Save. Okay. Now, like I said, I don't typically weld. I do typically tell you only attach, you know, the whole design, but the hearts are touching, so I kind of don't care how you do it. I may just go ahead and do attach. I'll just weld the hearts and be done with this, so we don't have to argue with it. Sorry, my design space is deciding to have a little bit of an aneurysm right now. So we'll just weld the hearts because those are the only two that are touching, and then we'll attach the rest of it. What that does is it just makes it so that when we go to make it, nothing moves. Now, I'm going to move this over, just get it out of my way for a minute, because we're going to do his other ear, and we're just going to do another square. And this is the one where we're going to go ahead and put his name in. So unlock your square again, down in that lower left-hand corner. Make it 2 inches by 2.7 inches. And then we're going to put his name in here. His name is Cameron Paul, so we're going to go ahead and do his name. And I like to do it on 2 lines. I center it. And then I mess with my font because I'm going to do kind of like a script font on this because I want it to look really cute and pretty. And I know I said don't use script font on the other one, but on this one it'll be a little bit bigger so you can, and we're going to angle it. So you can do it kind of however you want. And actually let me do, so his last initial is a C, so we're going to go ahead and make the C first actually so I can see what it looks like. So here's our C, and you can do this a couple of different ways. You could do a script font for your back font, or you could do a script font for the font in the front. It just depends on the look that you're going for. There is no rhyme or reason to how you do these. It's just a matter of your preference. I'm going to change this guy to something a bit fatter, like an impact. Let's check impact on here and see. I probably going to have to resize him a little bit. I don't really like that one. It's kind of too big. So like I said, a lot of this is just playing with the fonts and seeing what font you want to use for your letter. You can just sort of click through, find something that you like. I also will tell you just be careful choosing the font because you don't want anything that's going to be really, really hard to cut out or to weed. Luckily, Cameron, it's a C for his last name, so it's a pretty simple letter. Which also makes the script fonts a little bit tougher to mess with because you see how small that one is? That's going to be way too small for what we need. We need kind of a bigger letter in the background. So I am looking for something a little blockier for this one just because I would like it to fill more of the space up. You can always unlock your letter as well if you want to stretch it. So I kind of like this one. I think it looks cute and baby. So we're going to go ahead and use this. Our C is going to be white and our name is going to be blue. So I'm going to use a script font for that. I'm just going to take a look at what it looks like in Magnolia Sky. This is usually my go-to. It's easy to weed. It's easy to use. Doesn't look really, really girly, but you can use any script font you want. Like I said, it's all personal preference as to what you want to use. Some of them will be easier to read, easier to use than others. Like Autumn and November is really pretty, really easy to read, but you can see the E is very, very small, so that's going to be a difficult one to weed. Beach is cute, but you're going to have to do a lot as far as, spacing. So just find something that you like. I think actually this bold stylish calligraphy is really cool. I don't hate that. So let's play with the letter spacing, and we're going to go ahead and you're just going to space the letters down until they touch. And we'll see how it looks. If we hate it while they're touching, we can always change the font. But I actually think that looks pretty good. I'm not loving the C in this font, so I am going to go ahead and change it. I don't really like it. I want to make sure that it's easily read, but still looks very nice. So we're just going to go through and see what else we have. I don't have a ton of script fonts just because I don't really use them super often. I do not think I like that one. Some of them you may have to re-letter space out a little bit just to get a better look for them. Like this one's cute. It kind of looks very boyish. But I would have to letter space them probably on my own. So we're just going to go through and find one. It may, in the long run, end up being Magnolia Sky. It usually does. I don't know why half the time I even try to change it, but I do. Oh, wait. this one's cute. We may need to do a little fixing to this part, and this one, we may need to, there's a couple spots. So I'm going to show you actually on this one, because this one's kind of easy to see them. Do you see how we have these holes? We're seeing a lot of fonts that have got those holes in them, and all you would do to fix those is just a little piece of like a shape, and you would just stick it over this and then weld them. That would get rid of your holes, but I'm not going to do that because I really don't like that font. It's not quite what I, ooh, now this one I like. This one looks kind of boyish. I think it's really cute, and we're just going to squish the letters just a little bit. All right, let's do that one. Now you see how far apart these are? It's way too far. So you can mess with your line spacing just like you messed with your letter spacing, or you can always ungroup. But I'm just going to screw with the line spacing so you can see. You're just going to click down, and the line spacing is a lot bigger than like a letter spacing. So you're going to have to probably mess with this, like make it way smaller than you would on your letter spacing. I'm going to go ahead and change the color on this just so we can see it. It's going to be a bright blue, so we'll just... Oh, and we want to make sure, weld. I can see that I didn't do that yet. So make sure you weld any script fonts that are touching. You can see that it's all one word now. And see, I told you I was going to kind of angle it so that I could get it to fit, because his name's kind of big compared to some of the other ones I'll have done. So Cameron, Paul, we're going to go ahead and put you right there. And I think that looks really, really good. Now, we don't have to do anything as far as attaching or welding on this side, because we don't mind if they cut in separate pieces. So we're just going to go ahead and move them over. I just need to make sure they fit. And all we're going to do now is click Make It. And I'm going to show you what it's going to do. So it's going to cut these two, and I know it shows black. Doesn't matter what color it shows on here. All that matters is what color you load into your Cricut machine. So as long as you're loading a white HTV, it will not matter. And then I'm going to show you the Cameron Paul, and it's going to take just a teeny little piece. These are great for like your scraps and things like that. You don't need a ton of it in order to actually make these, which is really, really nice. So we're going to make sure to mirror. Let us not forget, because I cannot tell you how many times we all forget to mirror. I'm going to show you where the mirroring is, because it's right here. And all you're going to do is click mirror. It's right there, super easy. You're going to do that on both of these, because when you cut heat transfer vinyl, you cut it upside down, which is why we have to make sure to mirror, because the adhesive side is where we're cutting. So I'm going to go ahead and get my HTV out, and we're going to get these cut, and then we can put them on the elephant. We are ready to load our mat and cut our HTV. So I want to show you, and hopefully you guys can see this. There are two different sides to HTV. This one is the shiny side, and then you can see, hopefully, that this one is not as shiny. You want to make sure you put the shiny side down. Now I have a huge sheet because I don't have any scraps. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my big sheet. This is a Cricut brand iron-on. I got it at Joann Fabrics just because I needed it desperately for something else. And of course it was just like this tiny, tiny thing. So I now have a giant sheet of Cricut iron-on to use for projects that I don't want to put on a shirt. I prefer the Sizer Easy Weed and the Sizer Stretch for shirts. So we're going to go ahead and load our mat. And I am using a blue mat, but it is pretty darn sticky. It's pretty new, so usually I tell you guys, use a green mat, you know, but every once in a while you'll have a blue mat that is so sticky before you even can cut cardstock on it that you're fine cutting other things. So I have actually used this mat a couple times on some other stuff, no big deal. And then we're going to cut it, the rest of it in this blue, which you can see I've used quite a bit of. So we're going to use the blue for the name. So right now it's cutting out all of our stats. It is catching on the one corner a little bit, so I just need to make sure I keep an eye on it. The one roller keeps popping that corner up, so I just want to make sure I keep an eye. You know, sometimes you can just walk away from your machine while it's cutting. Other designs, you'll want to make sure that you stick around just to keep an eye on it, especially for this one where it's kind of cut in that corner. I want to make sure it doesn't pull that corner up while it's cutting. So once we come back, I'm going to weed this guy out and we can put it on the elephant. We are ready to press the design onto our ears. All I use is just a home iron by Black & Decker. It is a steam iron, however, there is no water in it, so please make sure if you're doing any kind of this stuff, you are not steaming. And then I'm using a piece of parchment paper. Oops, so sorry about that. Hit a button. So all we're going to do, I lay my parchment paper, and I do try to cover a lot of the elephant. And I'm going to pre-iron his ear a little bit just to get this, because it's fluffy. I just want to make sure that the fluff is laying flat. This is not the easiest thing to do. I would like to tell you it is, but it's not. I do have my iron up all the way on cotton. Do be careful. These guys do burn easily, so make sure that you are just doing this quickly. And you'll see that it's nice and flat now. And then I just like to make sure it's flat. And then all I do is take my birth stats. And you'll note that I cut kind of an angle here, and you may need to trim it a little bit more. But I just do that so that it fits against his head easier. And then all I do is just kind of put it wherever I think it's going to look pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Now remember, your HTV backing is just a little sticky. So you're able to stick it down, and I see that I slid it a little bit when I did that. I don't want any of the white in his light gray parts. So I might move him up just a little bit so that the M and PM hopefully will stay. I might need to trim this. Remember I said you might need to trim it? Well, I do. I need to trim this little edge off because it's pushing the 5 PM off a little bit. So I like to trim it, and I'll trim it real close to the edge here. There we go. Now it's not going to shove it off of the black part, or the dark gray, I should say. So you just lay that down. Remember, again, sticky, so it should hold. Take your parchment paper, lay it over your elephant. Take your iron, and this is going to be a really awkward angle for me, so I'm sorry. And I just want to make sure that it didn't move since I slid the line. Okay, it's good. And all we're going to do is press the iron onto our elephant ear. Now, once I've pressed it for a second, I can see through my parchment paper. So I usually will go ahead and just, oopsies, and then I ripped my parchment paper. Told you guys, this is not the easiest thing to do angle-wise. I'm doing this at a funny angle so you guys can see it better. And his little nose kind of gets in the way. If you need to, you can tuck his nose. But I ripped my paper, so I'm just going to fold it in half. And I'll just do it like this. Like I said, I do want to make sure I cover his side of his head, because I don't want to touch him with the actual iron. It's very hot and it can burn him. These do tend to burn pretty easily, so you just want to do these in really quick spurts. You don't want to give too much heat all at once, and you check him often. I always check my elephant as I go, and then I let him cool for a second or two, because I don't want to burn him. If you guys missed earlier in the video, I do get these on Amazon. They're about $7.99. They're super cheap. They make a really cute, personalized baby gift, especially if you are going up to meet baby at the hospital. It just makes a really fun present for mom and dad. Now, I can tell you right now, this is not fully adhered, but I wanted to let him cool because it is very hot. It is okay to let them cool between your heatings, especially when it's this kind of material. And I can tell I'm going to have a little bit of problem reaching this 5, so I may have to angle it funny for you guys just so that I can get it on. But just know I'm trying to make this as easy for you guys to see, but I also need to make sure that I get all my PC parts on, and I want to make sure that that 5 sticks. So lots of pressure, especially if you're using your home iron. Keep his nose out of the way. You can see I'm grabbing his nose and holding it so that it's not being touched by the iron. It's only going to be an issue on this side. Their little noses get in the way. You could do this with a heat press or your easy press, but all I have is the home iron, so I just sort of make do. Like I said, this 5 is giving me fits at the moment. I can't quite reach him. So we're just going to see. Now all we're going to do is check and see how well adhered it is. It looks like it's actually pretty good on the most parts so far. I think the 5 is just going to be the only part that maybe gives us fits in the 7, because they're really hard to reach because they're so against his body. Now, it's going to sound terrible, but we're going to have to squeeze him. We're just going to have to squish him. Sometimes you just have to squish them, and it sounds awful and mean, but he's just getting squished, because it's the only way I'm going to be able to reach the 5 and the 7. But again, make sure his nose is out of the way, and make sure that his face is covered from the heat, because you don't want to burn him. So let's see how that went. Let's see if that's held a little better. Oh yeah, much better. Looks like we're going to have some problems with those hearts. It's usually, I do find that I do run into a little bit of adhesion problems, like I said, with the stuff that's right here, because it is very hard to get into this edge. So I'm just going to let him cool for a second. I'm going to cover him back up, and we're just going to have to pull his head away. And like I said, this is not for the people who don't like to abuse little stuffed toys, because you really have to get in here and shove and pull, and you gotta be a little mean to his little ears, but if it means getting this to stick and look cute, it is what it is. So I will use the tip of my iron sometimes to just shove in here. I have my parchment paper doubled right now because when I didn't, I accidentally ripped through with the corner of my iron. So I just want to make sure that I am not doing that. Alright, okay, now we're good. Like I said, this is just, with the iron, it just does. It's just not the easiest thing to reach. So now we can peel off our backing. And I'm going to let it cool for a minute before I re-fluff. But when you come through, you're going to just re-fluff all the fluff around his little ear. So you can see there's his ear. And then we're going to do his other ear. Again, it's going to be an awkward angle. We're going to start with our letter C in white. And I'm going to just pre-place everything just so I can make sure that the C is where I want it and that his name will fit over it. Perfect. Okay. And then I'm just going to sorry, my dog is going to bark. So I'm just going to turn him so you guys can see. You just kind of figure out where you want the letter. And I like to hold him up and just sort of see if it looks even, which I think it does right there. So let me turn him this way. This one I again trimmed pretty close to the edge of the letter, so that I could easily get it on the ear. And I'm just going to use the same piece of parchment. You don't have to get a new one. You can use a Teflon sheet, a pillowcase. Oh, I just burned my finger. Watch your finger. Pillowcase, a light towel. I just have parchment paper. I prefer it. It's easier to see through to make sure that nothing shifted when you were doing this. And again, lift up, let him cool, and then you can press again. I just don't like to overheat him. I'm always afraid to burn them. I burned one time and it was sad, and I was not happy with myself. So I always like to try just to be a little bit more careful now when I do these so that I do not burn them. They are polyester, so they can and will burn. Let me see how well that stuck out. Yep, that stuck pretty good. All right. Now this one is going to show a little bit of wrinkling right now, and hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know how well you guys can see, because it's not fully adhered, and I did that because I'm going to press another layer on top. I don't know how well you guys can see this. But I'm going to put his name on top of it. So what I do to do this one, I like to do it, and then you can do it however you want. But I'm going to turn the elephant again so that I can see what I am doing. And hopefully you guys can see too. I'm just going to figure out kind of where I want it. And I'm going to trim it down again because I don't want it to shift if it touches the edge of the elephant. So I'm going to trim it down. But I did save that piece from the C because I'm going to make sure to cover it. Even though you don't have to, I prefer to, especially because he's not fully adhered. So I'm just going to figure out kind of where I want his name and how I want it to lay. So I like that, where it's kind of angled. And again, we're going to take our elephant. And you could even use the stuff from the white and put it over it if you wanted to. I just like to give the C a little extra barrier. It's just a personal preference thing for me. You don't have to do it, but I like to. And then all I'm going to do, again, cover my elephant. Try to keep the parchment paper from flying. Make sure that nothing shifted. And press. This one is going to be the final pressing for your elephant, hopefully. These are so fun, so cute. You can do all kinds of colors with them. You can be really creative. These actually make really good gifts even for older children, because you can put their name and their birth date on it, or if it's for a holiday, or maybe they lost their first tooth, things like that. These make really, really cute gifts. So we're just going to go ahead and pull this off. Oops, you know what? I'm going to repress him just another second because I don't like how his P didn't stick as well. So we're just going to go ahead, and I did this one without the cover over the C. But I want to just give that C an extra pressing real quick because it did have a little bit of a wrinkle to it. Alright. Now this Cricut is a hot peel, but do be careful. You can let it cool a little bit just so you don't burn your fingers. And we'll refluff his ears in a little bit, and let me get him set up and you guys will be able to see how he turned out. Here is our completed elephant. Really a super fun project, really easy to do. It's just a matter of measuring, knowing the baby's stats, and having fun with it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know down below. I am always happy to answer those. If you are looking for any tutorials, also let me know that down below. I make these tutorials because you ask for them. I hope you guys had fun learning how to make the birth stat elephant. Have a great day.